Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bob, will you do the honors?
I'll see what I can do to read here. We bow our heads. Father, we are very gracious of what you've provided this squadron for safety, for the travels of everybody in regards to our mission. And we ask that you look over this squadron for its future. We understand we're having difficulties in this nation. We ask for the right decisions to be made in good things. Most of all, we just pray for those people who are ill. Give them strength to do that.
Amen. All right. It's been an interesting week for some of us. Let's see. I think if I'm keeping track, it's aerospace night, right? All right. Good. So as some of you may know, there's been a little IT kerfluffle this week. So
No.
I'm a global infrastructure guy, so I've had a busy few days. It's been pretty nuts. I don't even know what to say, but I had 2 global incidents this week. So CrowdStrike was the second one. So I haven't really slept a lot. I'm running on a lot of caffeine right now, so I may say weird things. I don't have a lot of updates. At least I'm scanning my emails here if our commander had anything. Some of us, I think Terry and I, will be at a CD mission this weekend, so we're gonna take the super hot weather and go stare into Mexico for this weekend, so that'll be fun. I had a fire outside my house, a big one. It was the what are they calling it? The Eagle Fire, I believe, was right by my house. So I was getting to watch C-130s buzz by. That was pretty cool. So yeah, big excitement for me. I think that's looking. I don't see. Oh, is there anything else going on? A lot of cadet stuff. If anyone wants to do ground team training, yeah, I don't think so. They're going to be up in Big Bear. I think. When is that going to be? The second through 4th of August. So if you want to hang out at Big Bear, but I know maybe not ground team, but if any of you are interested in UDF, they will be doing UDF up there as well. They have very limited slots for aircrew, but not a lot of information. So if you are aircrew qualified, you can reach out to Aaron and find out if you want to participate in that.
Who's sponsoring that? Because Big Bear is closed, I thought.
Yeah, it says Big Bear. Oh, they're gonna base staff aircrew will be able to remain overnight at indoor facilities at Big Bear Airport.
Bob, were you talking about the facility there?
No, the squadron closed up because they couldn't get
Well,
enough people.
yeah, the squadron's closed up, but we still
own the building.
We still own the building, and that's the building we're going to go to, and we are joint tenants with, I think, Cal Fire there.
Okay.
Hang on, of all the emergencies that happen.
Thank you.
Hang on.
I may add, I think if I'm correct, according to the emails, they said they're doing famine prep. If you're interested in the ground stuff, they're doing famine prep over at Upland. Can't remember if it's this weekend, but it's in the emails.
Alright. Sorry about that. So I have some emergencies I have to deal with. Hang on. Okay. What else happened? I think we missed some missions. Yeah, there was some Coast Guard stuff. There was a no-place SAR, but saw a lot of mission alerts go out. Did anybody do any missions? No? All right.
Didn't do them, but got the alerts.
Yep. We have our SUI coming up, so those of you that have duty positions will be, Andre and I will be reaching out to various people that have duty positions because we have things to do during the SUI, so especially Kathy. Yeah.
I've been doing it. I was here on
Okay.
Sunday.
So, Andre's going to make them go pretty streamlined. I mean, I think we know the process since we've seen one now. So, I don't expect a lot of excitement. Just we got to make sure our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed.
Does that include inventory of comm equipment, that kind of stuff, or is that another?
Yes.
Yes. So full inventory. So that's just part of the SUI. See what else. They still keep taunting us with the new LMS system Absorb. Now the new date is July 30th. So good luck. We'll see if it happens this time. I'm looking forward to it too. But if you have any training that's kind of in flight, you have a very short window to finish it and print out your certificate of completion just in case it doesn't transfer to Absorb. I don't know when the cutoff time, because normally when we do these things they give a cutoff time, but I don't see any. As your ENT officer, I should know a lot more about this as it goes forward, but that's what they're telling us, is to make sure you print your report card out of Access, just to make sure. So
Have a report card?
yeah, it's called, like, you go to my transcript and at the top there's print my report card. That's the images that they're showing me on the email, at least. Yeah, I know. So make sure you do that if you're at all worried about losing any of these. Oh, let's see. Al, you got any updates about maintenance? I can bring up the page too.
By the way, you probably don't know, but I just transferred Cam into our squadron just now.
Oh, okay.
So she is one of our newest members.
Well, hello.
Well, in fact, she is our newest members. So say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah.
Come on. Give it up.
And the question is, are you stuck with us or are we stuck with you? Which is it going to be? Yeah. Al, anything that you want to bring up especially?
216 Charlie Papa is still down.
Yeah.
Don't know when that's gonna be.
Do you have an update on 437 Charlie Papa by any chance?
Only email that came out
Okay.
earlier in the week.
Okay. No, because I mean it's kind of special because we're going to try to use that for the Big Bear SARX if it's out in time. If it's not, then we can't. So,
I was not tracking that one. I can go
Which
back
one are you
and
looking for?
213.
sir,
Which one are you looking for?
437 Charlie Papa.
Still shows it's in for its
100-hour inspection in progress, waiting for estimate.
Right now, the estimate has been submitted. They have approved the estimate. However, there's one cylinder that had went bad. And I don't know if you know, but the history of getting cylinders from the engine shop and is very poor. So that's what we're doing. We're waiting for a cylinder for 437, as well as the cylinders and the pistons for 216. So
437 and 216 still waiting for the cylinder work replacements.
yeah.
218 still down.
I thought we got all our cylinders for
Yeah, for
216.
216 it says all cylinders.
Well, we got all the cylinders, but they want us to put the old pistons in with the old scarred up pistons that they wanted us to do that, and the mechanic refused. So we went through some volley there, trying to find out whether they were going to send us new pistons or not, and I don't know the answer yet. So sorry.
Anything else? Do we have a plane that flies?
We do have a plane in the hangar right now.
That flies?
Yes,
Oh,
that is a 182 with steam
Round dial.
gauges.
Oh, okay, that's right.
That's which one? 430.
Is that the one going back to Santa Maria?
Well,
There was an email that came out about a 172 coming and a 206 going.
The 206 is
yeah.
still dead.
I think it's 430. It's in the hangar. I'm not sure.
And then Hemet, are they getting a brand new 172? Or I saw.
We're gonna get one that's transferred from Arizona,
Ah,
so it's not brand new, but it's something that they're not using enough, so they're transferring it to, they're actually gonna transfer it to Hemet first. Hemet's gonna do some training for a while, and then it's gonna come to us. Now, I don't know if we get to keep it or how long we're gonna keep it, but that's one of the stories I
I
heard.
doubt we're gonna be able to keep it. What is it?
Remember, none of these assets are Squadron 5's assets. They're wing assets, and they can move them around at will.
We just, you know,
And they
I mean,
do, so,
the problem
right
with
now, we have such a
172
shortage of aircraft, they move a lot, they're very volatile.
Well, and as people may or may not know, the 172s, the problem is one of the biggest things we do is O-flights, right? So 172s, low weight, so how many,
Well, the 172 is not really for cadet O-rides, it's
Right.
actually for cadet training.
right?
We have a program in Sunbelt Patrol where we teach cadets from start to their check ride.
Yep.
And it's pretty much free to them, so that's a pretty good ticket. That's what, $6,000-7,000 if you buy, if you have to go pay for it. Right?
You wish.
Yeah.
You wish it was that much.
I mean, if you're good. If you're
Yeah,
good.
I mean, if you're a crappy pilot like me,
Yeah,
then
if
yeah,
you're- if
you
you're
might
a-
spend somewhere around 10 grand. Yes, sir.
The tail number on the 172 that was in Terry's email is 499 Charlie Papa, and that's a 2020 172 Sierra. So it's a pretty new airplane.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, 2020 is pretty new.
Yeah. Well, if it's at
Look it up and see how many hours it has out.
if it has 800 pounds of usable load, I'll be surprised.
It's actually all the 172s are all G1000s. So, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
But they don't have a Becker in it, so we can't use it for search and rescue.
Yeah, because doesn't it weigh as much as the aircraft?
No. The Becker's not that heavy.
Yeah. But anyways, that's all I've got. You ready, or are you? I need to vamp a little more. I could do a dance, sing a song. All right. You need the system, or? All right. All right.
So last week, and I'm not going to talk too much because for some reason my voice is kind of wavering, and I don't know why. I feel perfectly fine. But last week there was an aerospace education event where they had an astronaut, and Andre had messaged me and said, this would be a great thing to do. We just need to shift the dates. And I'm like, well, I was out last week, and so that wasn't an option, but they did publish the recording of the session. So I'm going to basically play that today, which will also, I wasn't planning on that because of my voice, but it's kind of working out. So let me just share the screen here. And the whole video is is a little over an hour, but I skipped the first 10 minutes or so because it's intro to aerospace, the stuff that we already do. It's more or less explaining to the astronaut what our aerospace program is all about, which I've covered here many times. And then the latter half of the conversation is Q&A, so if we don't get through all of that, we'll still get through the main part of their presentation. So, let's see here. All right. As soon as I can remember how to share the screen. Share screen with audio. There it is. And you got it in the thing there. 'Cause I can't share it to there and to the meeting at the same time. Right.
It was a huge challenge to create one slide that could talk about all of Lieutenant
So
Colonel
can you share yours to that screen?
credentials here. So rather than to create one.
At least I don't think I can share it to that screen. Let me check. Maybe I can share it to there. stopped sharing. Yeah, when I tried to share it to the big screen, it stopped.
Because you're just going to play it in the meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Chris. Yes. What's Chris? Yes.
There we go.
Can you send a share invite to Cam right here for the Teams meeting? By any chance?
Yeah. Let me get this set up and I will.
Move ahead to the 9-minute mark here because it suddenly backed me up. It is.
It's kind of here right now. It was a huge challenge to create one slide that could talk about all of Lieutenant Colonel Mennon's really achievements and kind of credentials here. So rather than feebly attempt to do that, I will hand things over and we'll just kind of get into it. So the way this will work is Colonel Menon will say a few words and then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A after that. And if we have time, hopefully we'll take some questions both from cadets here as well as online if we can do that. So please extend a great California wing welcome to Lieutenant Colonel and Dr. Emil Menon of NASA.
Awesome, thank you. I am going to share my screen here. And then
I know. And I got to leave. Sorry about that.
Presenting it, so I'm very grateful to the cadets. Oh, hang on a second. I need to.
It's okay. They're having technical difficulties in the virtual meeting that we're streaming as well. So.
what's happening on the screen there? Oh, you mean this little thing in the lower right?
Now I've got a situation where I can see it on my screen, but the screen that I'm sharing it to is not.
You need to double screen share.
Yeah, exactly so.
Welcome to our
Get rid
world.
of this. Maybe that will fix
So they're
it.
going through exactly what we just.
And get back to Teams.
And he's an astronaut, so don't feel so bad.
All right. I think we are cooking with gas.
You solved that pretty quickly. I'm impressed. Obviously, you're the right person to be at Edwards helping folks out. Well, I want to start off by just getting you all engaged. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and you'll have to just participate with me here. So, first question is, if you're in the audience, I know it's hard for you to answer this directly to me, but just answer it maybe in your mind. But would you like to see this view and fly to space? And so I'm going to give you a second, and you can answer that. I have a feeling I'm in front of a very supportive audience from that standpoint and would like to do that. And I know there's some younger folks out in the audience, and so, ask yourself this. Is this a burning dream that you have? Like, are you willing to really commit to it and pursue that as maybe a longitudinal career? And if it's not the case for you, maybe you're at a different stage of your life, a trajectory, but you have a burning desire, think of that and keep it in your mind. So everyone should have in their mind right now something that is their kind of burning desire next step. And if you have a pencil in front of you, write it down. Or if you have a phone, this will be the one time to take it out and just like text it to yourself. Or if you're on a computer, maybe just try writing it down. Try manifesting it into the world with me. And I'm going to give you guys 5 seconds to do that.
Now I'll just take a straw poll of the cadets here. Raise your hands if taking a selfie with this as your background is something that might be interesting to you.
There's a large room full of cadets behind the speaker.
Did we get at least one person?
Oh, I think we've got at least half the room.
Okay, awesome. Well, that means there's half that has another burning desire, and I hope they wrote something down. But no matter what it is, I wanted to share this one thing which was really meaningful to me in terms of pursuing this difficult career. But Sun Tzu, a long time ago in The Art of War, wrote something that strikes true even today to me, that victorious warriors win first and then go to war. Defeated warriors go to war and then seek to win. And what this means to me is when you write something like that down and you plan it out and you put it into the world, what you have to first do is really believe this is something you can achieve, and it is something you can achieve, and really get that into your psyche. And the first step sometimes is just writing it down, and I'll share with you some of the other things I learned along my journey that helps manifest some of these things that seem like far out, outlandish dreams, but are really within your grasp. And even for the young people here, even more so within your grasp if you raised your hand about space. So I thought what I would do is first talk about my journey to NASA, then some next steps at NASA, a little bit about the training program, and I'm going to go really fast so that we have a good chunk of time for just general questions and answers. But my journey started a long time ago when I was 6 or 7. I saw an IMAX movie, which was at the Omni Theater at the Minnesota Science Museum, where I grew up, and it was called The Dream is Alive. And I saw these people in space. I was in Minnesota. I loved it, kind of being outdoors and adventure, and it just blew me away that these people were working in that environment. And I thought, that's got to be the coolest job in the world. It's just full of adventure, and it's a job, and it's somewhere completely foreign to me, and it was something that really just like drew me to it, like many other kids. I recently started reading this book called The New Guys, and The Dream of Life seems like it's something that John Young said around the first flight of the shuttle to Crippen, who was his co-pilot. So that's something new I learned. But my journey then kind of started there in Minnesota, and it felt like a far out outlandish dream to me. I got interested in science, like you all. Was interested in STEM because it's so helpful for flight, aviation, NASA, space. I knew it was a part of that, and I liked it, and I just wanted to be a part of that world. So I did what was around me. So in the Minnesota, there was some science opportunities to do research at the Minnesota Zoo, and I did that. And I participated in science fairs. I also, when flying for the first time at Anoka County Airport, my dad paid for like 2 flights. And at that time, that's all we could afford. And he just was trying to expose me to different things. But that really drew me in. And I realized it was a lot of money to get your private pilot's license and a lot of time. And I didn't know how to do that. So I put it on pause. But it was in the back of my mind. And later I would pick it up during medical school in Palo Alto, actually, in the Bay Area at Palo Alto Flying Club. So it was on pause for a long time, but it was something that I really loved. I went to school, went to college, got interested in medicine. That's a picture of me teaching kids. I helped out at Head Start classrooms and just tried to be a positive impact there. I just realized I loved helping people in science, and medicine was a good combination of those 2 things. And I went to medical school over at Stanford and was able to then start doing a little bit of flying once every 2 weeks. And for those of you who've done some flying, it's nice to get a faster flight rate than that. You can learn a little bit faster, but that was enough to get my license after 2 years there, and I was able to cobble together enough money to do that. And then I went into residency in emergency medicine, and I was still interested in space at that point. And I was unsure of how you get from emergency medicine to doing space stuff. I knew there were some doctors that were at NASA. It wasn't as easy as it is nowadays to just kind of Google things and figure out how you you could find opportunities, or that there's actually doctors working at NASA you could email, or programs that link you in there. And so, I knew this was out there, and I thought the first thing I would do was just get headed in the right direction. So that was the first thing that's kind of held true through my career, was just kind of move in the direction that you want to get going in, even if it isn't really clear how you get there. Sometimes the path kind of becomes more clear as you're headed there. And for me, that meant getting closer to doing medicine in an aerospace environment. And the only place I knew at the time you could do that was the Air Force and Air National Guard. And so I found out about that because they had a rescue squadron right by Stanford. And so I started the process of trying to join there. And I spent a year at that rescue squadron, and was able to figure out how to become a flight surgeon through that. And then found out that there was an F-15 base in Klamath Falls, which was kind of far away, but not too far away. And as a doctor, you could get some experience flying in the back seat of those, which at that point was the coolest thing I had done. And so I was super interested in doing that. And they had something called critical care transport. And what you did was take care of ICU patients in the air. And so it was really doing medicine in an aviation environment. It wasn't space medicine, but through that I figured out that you could work at NASA, and I knew one of the things that you'd do in space was take care of people without all the same tools that you'd have. So I got interested in wilderness medicine, and started doing that at Stanford. And through that process, responded to the earthquake in Haiti in 2010, because a bunch of people from Stanford went there and were some of the first doctors in there, first 4 doctors to enter in there. There was a couple that were initially there. And then was at the Reno Air Race show doing medicine with that F-15 group when an airplane crashed into the audience right by us. But we had a plan in place, and I think I was able to go to the nearby trauma center, take care of people in a short window of time, and really make a difference there. And this is Nepal, where I was also supporting the Air Force and an adventure race, and was able to respond there. So through this process, I was able to find a way to help people, but also kind of be in a position where I could do medicine and do it in an aviation environment. And it was just by moving in that direction that I was able to be in a place where these opportunities to be of service helped. I did figure out you could get down to NASA and work at NASA, and I worked down there as a flight surgeon for several years. I started in 2010, finished in 2017 before going to SpaceX. But it was there that I came super close to space, and I was so close to this dream, and asked one of the astronauts to fly up the Stanford medicine patch for me. And I was pretty content then, but I had been applying to be an astronaut a few times at this point. I had applied in medical school, I applied at residency, a couple times while at NASA, and every time I came really close, got an interview. And I can talk about that process a little bit more detail if people are interested. But in the end, made it to the last round and didn't get in. So I was super close, but just missed it. And the last time I missed it, I was 39 years old, and I thought, well, that's it. I gave it my best shot. I got a lot of experience that was really cool because I liked doing that. But I needed to think about where to go next. And that's when this unique opportunity popped up at SpaceX to be a doctor, and that was 2017. And SpaceX, people didn't know about it at that point that much. Like, they were flying cargo missions. They hadn't flown people. They didn't have Starlink up there. I don't think Elon was that popular at that time. And I was, this job popped up, and we just had a kid. My wife and I, we just got married. We just bought a house, and I did know that it was one of these jobs where it might not be it's not as stable as NASA. Like you could lose your job in a year or something. And so it was a huge risk to take that job, and we thought about it a lot. And I think I arrived at that conclusion by just giving a lot of thought to what I felt like this next chapter would hold. And I decided that I really loved doing this aerospace medicine thing, and I was willing to just take on that kind of risk. And my wife was too, because she'd be giving up a job and her friends. But we decided to do it. We decided to take this risk together. We moved out to California, where my boss there in SpaceX, the VP, said, "Hey, we're not sure what you're supposed to be doing here, so be entrepreneurial." And he didn't think he had any work for me. Like they really weren't sure that they even needed a doctor. The risk ended up paying off. I can tell you that I was busy almost every hour of the day, and we were able to launch Demo 2 in 2020, which was the first humans to space. And medicine had a huge role in that, and that prior experience did too, in designing some of the systems we needed for that. I also noticed that this was during COVID, so it was just like insanely busy, and quite the opposite of what they initially said. I remember there was a moment where the president sent out an email to the company and said, COVID's going on, but listen, don't worry about it. We've got our doctor on the case. Here's his email. There's where his desk is, and here's his telephone number. And there were so many people that were so concerned about COVID at the time, and rightly so, that I remember my email box was just scrolling like a New York Times kind of stock market ticker. And so it was a crazy time for medicine. And the team that I had expanded from 1 to 50 to keep the rates and threat down. And we were able to do that really significantly and do other things like build a ventilator that we eventually handed off to Tesla, 55,000 masks the suits team built, the people who built these suits in that picture there. So it was like an incredibly productive time in all sorts of different ways, but well worth the risk. And so I think that was another big thing that I learned and glad I took, is just sometimes being willing to step out there, because those are when the opportunities sometimes present themselves. The other thing was, I thought I had a 0% chance at that time if you would ask me of being an astronaut. And so I decided, I still wanted to fly to space. There might be other kind of opportunities out there. And SpaceX itself was challenging enough that there's always some unique problem each month that seemed unsolvable. And the fun and hard part about it was figuring out how to solve that problem. And our medical team and I learned how to do that. But part of it was also just pushing myself, and I found ways to push myself inside of SpaceX and outside of SpaceX. And one of the ways I did that was just through exercise. This is a 60-hour endurance event that I love participating in, but it was just a good opportunity to work on some basic skills like not giving up on things, or mental toughness techniques like breathing and positive self-talk, and those things that help during the workday and in these crucible type events. And so that was really powerful. And I think over the course of the years that I was there, I decided, you know what, I'm going to apply to this astronaut thing one more time, because I know I'll regret it if I get older and I hadn't given it another try. Not only am I going to apply for it, but I'm going to really believe that I can pull this off. I'm not too old to do it. I've got a lot of experience and a lot that I can contribute here. And with that mindset, prepared a lot, applied, and did better than I had before on the interviews, and was selected into the program. Spent 2 years doing the astronaut candidate training and then graduated in March. And so I then would be headed towards space station, which is the big destination for most of those graduates that you saw there. Andre, who's fourth from the left there, is going to be working on Artemis as a backup. And this is the space station. That's where I'll be headed. I'll tell you a little bit about the training and then open up from some questions. But in general, for those of you who aren't aware, we've launched Artemis 1 as part of the return to the moon. This Artemis 2 mission will be the first crewed mission in the Orion capsule that are going to go to the moon but not land on the moon. Right now, the Artemis 3 mission will put people on the moon, men and women. And Artemis 4 will then expand upon that, start assembling a gateway which orbits around the moon, and also add more components to that. So I'll talk about that a little bit. So Artemis 2 is the next big thing. It's on an SLS rocket, the Orion spacecraft. It's got life support system. It's going to launch from 39B over there in Kennedy on Florida. And then 3 and 4 are going to be part of this human landing system. And if you see HLS out there, that's the Starship. And that's what SpaceX is testing down in Starbase, Boca Chica. When you see this in August, or the in-flight test, IFT number 5 launching, it's going to be something that will eventually turn into this and land on the moon and take people to the moon. So that's something after that Artemis 2, something big to look out for. It's got a really interesting orbit. It'll be 4 astronauts. 2 of them will be doing the EVAs on the ground and collecting samples, and it'll be a lot of new technology, just super cool to see. I briefly mentioned about Gateway, and it's this unique orbit. So before, when they launched to the moon, they did this orbit that kind of was more of a direct orbit that you standardly think about and landed there. This one keeps itself in a very low energy position that makes it easier to bring a big payload to the moon and keeps it in a Lagrange point from there. I'm almost done, and then I can open it up for questions. But what am I doing right now? I'm training. So now that I'm done, I'm training to go to the space station on a mission, and that is going to be composed of a few parts. One is training in the MBL. This is for spacewalks, but you do it in this pool. And so this pool is so big, it takes a week to fill it from a fire hydrant. That's how big it is. And they put the whole space station in there so that you can actually move around in there. And EVAs tend to be 6 hours to 8 hours long, moving a suit that's 4.5 PSI, which is kind of like moving against a bunch of resistance. It's kind of like squeezing a tennis ball for 7 hours straight. It can get it's pretty easy at first, but it gets pretty tiring really fast, particularly when you're trying to do something. But it is the most fun that I have in this training, because it feels most like being in space. You actually are neutrally buoyant, which means when you move to the right, you stay there. Things move around just like they would in space because they're weighted out like that. All your tools are the same. You're lucky to have these support divers there helping you move stuff around. So it's a really cool training day where you're following a procedure, working on the space station, and preparing for something that you'll really do out there. And you're working on teamwork and communication and things that are just super important to being an astronaut. Another way we work on the teamwork, communication, and real-time thinking is flying. So you're doing that all the time whenever you go flying, but we fly in the T-38. It's a supersonic training jet from the Air Force. I think Neil Armstrong flew one of these as well, and it's still there. So that's how old they are. But they've been upgraded, but they're pretty good training vehicles, and the Air Force still uses them. And so you'll often find yourself dealing with some anomaly or emergency procedure in the jet, and you work together, the front seater and the back seater, to solve that problem. And that's where it comes in terms of making decisions about weather, landing sites, communication. How are you communicating with each other? And are you doing that fast and efficiently, like it might happen in space? So it's a really good training platform and something that you all use and can work on. Then we learn about the robotic arm. And so we learn how to manipulate things. Right here is the arm attached to station, and kind of in the center bottom is a payload that's on it. So it attaches to payloads. You might move that payload somewhere. You might move an EVA person somewhere, and you control it with two hand controllers. So it's a lot of eye-hand coordination, plus understanding the science of it. And then finally, we start learning about space station itself. So this is a picture inside of a space station mock-up, and you learn about the systems. They'll throw you an emergency like a fire or a power loss, and you work through the procedures to solve it. You work as a team to delegate roles and to do it fast and efficiently. And you work with international colleagues. So one of the things we do is we learn Russian, and we talk with our Russian colleagues and just connect with them and make sure that we're communicating well and splitting the tasks and getting everything done. So when I'm done with all that, it's about another year of those compartments of training, and then you get some tests, and then they say that you're ready to work on the space station, do real EVAs, to launch, to understand the vehicle, to work with your team, and to go up there. And so that's what you do to prep for going to the space station. So that's currently where I am right now in this whole process. So I'm going to stop presenting for a second, and then I can just answer some questions about all that. We can just see where we go.
So, Colonel, I think somewhere in the middle of your presentation, your video feed kind of went away. So you might want to bounce that off and on, and let's see if that comes back.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right, you're back. So thank you. That was a fascinating kind of exploration into your journey, which was pretty unique. I'll lead off with a bunch of questions. If there are any cadets here who have any questions, maybe I'd have you come queue up kind of over here, and we could see about putting that in there. So how many times did you apply to the astronaut program? Which try was the charm?
In my case, it was the, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth time was the charm, yeah. And, you know, that used to be a reasonable time span back in the shuttle days, because they would do selections every 2 years. So that would be a decade-long period, and you'd get another shot at it and could kind of adapt or get some feedback. But now that they do the selections every 4 years and they select a lot less people, it seems like slimmer odds on some level, because you're looking at, you know, a 20-year period of applying. But that's where those principles of just not giving up and continuing after something really made a difference. If I ever did that, then this wouldn't be possible.
I think so. Something that I would love to hear your perspective on, that I think would be good for the cadets to hear, is this kind of story of resilience. So after you had seen the movie 4 times and it didn't have the ending that you were looking for, you know, what was that thought process when contemplating round 5, which wound up being the successful one, kind of came up? What was the math, the calculus that you did that says, you know, let's give this one more go? I'm not going to say that last go.
Yeah, I think it was, one, acknowledging the disappointment. So it was really disappointing to me. It was truly a dream that seemed to not materialize. I came close, got to do a lot of cool things that I wanted to do, and I was happy with that. But I definitely felt like I missed it, because I got an interview, made it to the last round. It was just so close. I think it would have been easier if I didn't make it that close, and I was like, oh. So I was really disappointed for a while. I think I leaned on others at that time for some support. And then I thought of that I needed to redirect. So it was redirecting towards what do I really want to do, big picture, and how does this all fit in? And it wasn't to apply again. It was fundamentally what was it that I wanted to spend the next 5 to 10 years on. And to get there, I just spent a lot of time personally journaling each day, answering that singular question. And it became super crystal clear. I think journaling sometimes taps into an intuitive part of ourselves. And for me, for sure, that worked, which just let me kind of crystallize like, I love medicine, I love space. I'm going to find a way to do that and to continue to be in this industry. And that's kind of when the magic happens as the SpaceX job opened up. And I don't think it would have been a lot harder to take all those risks if I hadn't really crystallized that this was my passion and it was worth the risk. So it's kind of like the Simon Sinek thing, start with why. I really had a clear why so that when the opportunity popped up there, I was willing to go for it. And I think that was a transformative risk and career direction for me. And so that was unique. What also is interesting about that is you just never. I'll sometimes know what happens, so never close the door on yourself because my wife joined me there at SpaceX, and she, as a little girl, also kind of wanted to do the same thing, and she got a job at SpaceX, which wasn't easy, and then she was offered the opportunity to fly to space with SpaceX on the Polaris Dawn program at the same time that my astronaut announcement happened. For some reason, my camera auto-off, so I have no idea why.
No worries.
And so, like, you could have never in a million years predicted that you could go work at a commercial spaceflight company and get an opportunity to fly to space through that, but it happened. And so I think another takeaway for people who are interested in this, certainly is to head in that direction, but keep an open mind because there are so many opportunities that are going to be so different from the reality that is today. If these Blue Origins and SpaceX and all these other opportunities turn into something, which I believe they will, then you'll have opportunities that are kind of different. But having those same raw skills of flying as part of Civil Air Patrol, getting the good teamwork experience that you guys have, they're all going to be contributory in that direction. So that's kind of interesting.
So I'm interested in that picture of your astronaut class. So I know that one of those people in the picture came in kind of through medicine, but I'm wondering about the others. And I guess it's a more general question that says, what are the variety of professional pathways that can lead, to being, as an initial or an intermediate step to a career in space?
Yeah, it is certainly. I was gonna put up the picture and see if I can share it, but let's see. I think for sure, it's certainly one of the big things is for sure getting into science. So I saw that STEM was a big part of this, and everyone has some sort of background in science and passion for science. There's two people from the UAE here, but Chris Birch was a PhD in bioscience. Chris was a PhD in astrophysics. Andre did engineering. Denise did oil rigs with engineering. Vapor here love math, was a pilot. Jack was a pilot in math, and Luke's also a pilot, and Jess is a pilot, and Marcos here flew helicopters and did his engineering research as well. So one common theme is flying, which you all are doing. Another common theme is doing that science and being interested in that. I'd say some of the unique things that really set these people apart are probably the investment that they have in teamwork and just making things work. They're really good, emotionally intelligent people that can help, that can really solve problems. And it's a unique group to be in. So if you have, in any group of people, you're going to have some issues. The important thing with this group that feels like it stands out a little bit is that everyone's committed to solving those problems together in a healthy way, which might be bringing a tough issue up with somebody and saying, hey, you know, when you said this during one of the classes, it undermined my point and it made me feel upset. And I thought you were kind of not listening at all. And I think what I'd like to see is us to be able to, you know, connect with each other, communicate, not talk over each other. And sometimes those are hard conversations to have, but they're all willing and committed to doing those kind of things. So I think that's probably the strongest central thread amongst those people.
That's great. That's great. I think both with your NASA experience and your SpaceX experience, you're witnessing kind of one of the transformations that we're seeing in space, which was, it was an enterprise that was, you know, primarily dominated by governmental bodies, you know, who were the only ones who had the resources, you know, to take on a challenge like that. And now you have SpaceX, now you have Virgin Galactic, now you have Blue Origin. And so what's your view on, I guess maybe I'll stop short of calling it the privatization of space, but more the participation of private enterprise, you know, kind of in space, and what opportunities do you see, you know, kind of for some of these cadets who, you know, will be entering into the space industry environment that could be 10 years, 15 years, you know, kind of from now? What does the trend line seem to kind of indicate to you?
Yeah, I mean, if I were to guess, I think it's a bit of a asymptotic upward curve that's just taking off. And so right now you're seeing that rapid growth. So in the 10 to 15 year period, I predict there's opportunities to fly to Mars. And I think that's a realistic goal, if not at least to space stations and to supporting some of the low Earth orbit things that are happening. It's such a cool synergy between NASA and commercial programs. So, you know, they helped start some of this industry by transferring knowledge and also supporting it through some of the early cargo flights. And now, like SpaceX, just because I know it well, I'll talk about it. But you know, they've taken that start and launched payloads with Dragon, and launched people with Dragon. And then there was the Inspiration 4 mission, soon the Polaris Dawn mission. And they've taken that and they've used that launch vehicle to set up a huge telecom infrastructure in Starlink. And now you see the development that's really rapid on Starship, which is just incredible as part of HLS and probably a lot of their payload deployment in the future. So, I mean, the critical thing about something like Starship and commercialization in general is it can do these things like a rapidly reusable vehicle with novel engineering design, and they're just so fast at it that you're going to see about a launch a month as it's developed, and then when it's ready, it can take 50 to 100 people to space. So that really changes the costs and the access to space and the opportunities that are going to happen. So I think that another piece of that is as they support NASA and the human landing system, they have to do a couple big things as part of that. And I think they'll get that done by before 2030, and I'm building in some buffer there. The stated targets are around 2026, but what they're going to do is launch this rapidly reusable Starship and booster, but launch 10 of them so that they can refuel them in space. And the importance of that is if you're going to go to Mars, you need to do refueling because you boil off some of your fuel. And then you need to be able to do that for Mars. So that's one piece of it. The other is docking and transfer, which is another piece of it. And then remote ops on the south pole of the moon, landing and launching from it. And that's another piece of it. So when all those pieces come together, as long as they can produce enough of these things, they'll be able to start sending people to Mars. And I think the opportunities will be enormous there. So that's just mind-blowing. That's like science fiction to me. And so I would be envious of anyone who's interested in it right now because I think it would be easier to get into. There'd be more opportunities, and the opportunities would be even cooler. So they'll just blow low Earth orbit, into the even farther distance. So,
awesome. Pause it there since we're almost at time. One of the other questions that does come up later, a cadet shows up and asks, the cadet's gonna go in the route of a commercial pilot, and he said, "What's is there a role to get commercial? To go from like an airline pilot to being an astronaut?" And it's kind of funny because I have to actually disagree with his answer that he gave the kid because everything he says, at this point, he's talking about carrying 50 to 100 people up into space, and I'm like, well, 10, 15 years from now, there might be a role in that, a route that way that goes there because if there's, his answer was basically, all the astronaut pilots now basically are getting there through the test pilot program for the most part, and that's still, that's been the way it's been since, the Apollo missions and the Gemini missions, but I think, just like with flying, right? The first pilots were all test pilots until it got safe enough and affordable enough where they could, we have regular people that weren't crazy test pilots fly. So, but like you're saying, things are gonna, what's gonna happen in the next 10 to 15 years, who knows?
In the scientific field, if it takes 2 years or 3 years for a satellite to get to Mars, you can't keep a person alive for 2 or 3 years. So they're going to put them in a subliminal state. This is the biggest question nobody can answer.
Well, that's the.
So it may happen. It's not going to be in my lifetime. It may be 100 years from now. But I think they'll do it. But I don't foresee what he's saying.
Well, we'll see. It's make a breakthrough on. But what's interesting, and the other thing I thought was interesting with this gentleman is, we're used to seeing, whenever we see a doctor, next to the person's title when they're an astronaut, it's a PhD, and he's an MD. So that's it's a little, not a little. That's very unusual. I know, and the other thing I noticed, I don't know if anybody caught it, but when he was talking about he was an astronaut candidate, he realized the audience he was speaking to was a bunch of kids, and because he was about to say what they call the astronaut candidates in NASA, and he caught himself and adjusted it to the
astronaut candidate.
Yeah, if you don't know what they call an astronaut candidate, it's the first syllable of astronaut and the first syllable of candidate, just that. And so that's the. But he caught himself in the middle of saying that. So, but yeah, when this was scheduled, he was just an astronaut he was an astronaut candidate, but by the time the actual event occurred, this conversation occurred, he had gotten the notice that he had been approved. So that was pretty good timing on their part. And yeah, overall I thought it was really good, interesting information. Hope that'll inspire some of you to go out there and seek your dreams of becoming an astronaut. But just in general, like I said, it's good. It's good info to have because one of the big things that we have as aerospace education is it's a bridge. Even though we don't have cadets here, it's a bridge to the youth and getting them involved in aviation, talking about this kind of stuff. And so when they say things, if you see, you're picking up tacos or burgers or whatever after the thing, and somebody sees a thing and says, "Oh, what's that about?" And then you explain, and then they ask you all kinds of aviation questions or stuff like that. You can say, "Well, we just learned about how to become an astronaut." And then they're like, "Oh, cool." So, that's, and in the words of Forrest Gump, that's all I've got to say about that. So,
Well, thank you. Very interesting. One thing I will say, I actually went into the Air Force Academy to be an astronaut. Like that was my goal when I was a kid. So I resemble like this whole conversation. I wanted that path and then diverged from it at some point. But no, I grew up during the shuttle era, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to fly a space shuttle and aeronautical engineering in the academy, and that was the path that I saw for myself. So I definitely understand how fun it was. But here we are today. I'm just a cap guy. Anyways, questions, comments, any additionals before we wrap up? All right.
We got the barbecue next Saturday. We need to figure out who's going to bring certain things.
Yes.
And I think a lot of it's being doubled up. If we put on the board, you're going to have 12 people, maybe 2 12-packs. You need chips, 2 big bags. You just need something that should be published versus just everybody bringing something and it doubles up.
All right.
We used to sign up on what we're going to bring.
Yeah, I can send out a form. Yeah, so watch for the form. All right. Barbecue next week. Remember, a meeting starts at 6:30, not 7, in the hangar. And we'll,
6 or 6:30.
6.
is it 6?
6, yeah.
I'll be there at 6:30, so you can be at town. Yeah, so 6. Yeah, we'll try not to burn down the hangar. All right.
Excellent.
Meeting adjourned.